Happy Friday evening, BookTube land. I hope you all are doing very well. I, for one, have had a very long week, but in the pendulum that is life, I'm finally having a good night. Nice, beautiful, warm Friday evening. A can of my favorite Smithwick's. Cheers to you. Funny story. Years ago, some coworkers and I we went out to a bar, and after work, one friend of mine, she's very Irish and very proud of it. She ordered a Smithwick's, so I figured it must be good. I tried it myself. It's been my favorite ever since. There we go. Hold that to the side for now. Also helps that one of the reasons I'm having such a pleasant evening. I just came back, saw the new Superman movie, and that's all I'll say. It was pretty good. And to top it all off, I don't know if anyone out there watches Jeopardy, but there was a hell of a game just now. The good Jersey boys, now a 7-day champion, and man, down to the end, there was big bets and everything. It was one hell of an episode. Anyway, folks, we are now in the heart of summer, which means it's time for the reading event, The Summer of Sport, which was created by Mark over at Book Time with Elvis. And he'll say I'm a big sports fan, as you can tell, and also I show off my shirt. I found this at Old Navy. You get some great shirts over there. I was like, New York City is the Big Apple, so here we got an apple and a non-copyright infringing New York hat on there. There you go. Good times. We're all ready for the summer of sport. While you're here, I'll just show you one other shirt I found too. Like a while ago, I showed my channel mascot Phil the cup of coffee. Well, maybe had this other shirt in there too. Check this out. A little cup of coffee on there. More espresso, less depresso. There you go. There's my mascot Phil on there. How about that? There you go. Just wanted to show that off for you guys. Having a fun time. Anyway, back to the summer of sport. You see on my desk here, I took out a little stack of books. I know it seems like a lot. Some of these books here that I'm going to talk about throughout the summer are actually rereads. And a couple of these books I've already reviewed when I first started this channel. Like back then, I had like a fraction of the subscribers I do now. And also back then, I was figuring out how to make BookTube work for me. I didn't really do individual reviews back then. So I mostly did like monthly wrap-ups, just did like a quick little discussion about each one. So anyway, some of those books that I really loved, that I include those early monthly wrap-ups, I'm going to bring back, and they're going to get their own video for you. Let's get through the books I have in a little stack, shall we? I took out 6 for you. First up, it is baseball season. So this was one of the books that I had previously discussed earlier in my BookTube career. It is called The Soul of Baseball, a road trip through Buck O'Neill's America, written by Joe Posnanski. This one, one of the most enjoyable reads. Like I said, I've read it twice now. I've read it for the first time at the start of last baseball season. I read it again at the start of this season. It's a fast read. Long story short, Buck O'Neill was a very famous manager and coach. In the old days of segregated baseball, when all the African American players played in what they called the Negro Leagues. Buck O'Neill was a famous manager. This book came out earlier this century. And essentially what the book is, this writer, Joe Posnanski, followed Buck on the road. So it takes place in present time, so he follows Buck around, being like essentially an ambassador to the game. It's like Buck O'Neill. One guy just had an incredible guy, had such an unbreakable spirit. Like they tell you, like they're all like the adversity like he grew up with back in his day. And let's see, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, like talk about his unbreakable spirit. Like over the day, like every time he goes on the road, people always say to him, "Oh, they felt like so bad for a lot of the players who couldn't play in Major League Baseball because it was segregated back then." And Buck O'Neill would always say, "No, like, you should feel sorry for the people who never got to see those players play." So the guy just had an unbreakable spirit. I mean, one hell of a figure. And thankfully, this book happened when it did, because about a year after it was released, Buck passed away. He was in his mid-90s. So yeah. One of my favorite books, favorite sports books to read. There you go. Buck O'Neill. Next up, folks, there is a book by a very famous sports writer from the 70s and the 80s, and the 90s too, I guess. He actually died in the early 2000s. It was Mark Cram. He covered boxing for Sports Illustrated, and he wrote this book, The Ghosts of Manila, the fateful blood feud between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. There you go. two of the all-time great heavyweights, all-time great fighters. Damn, like, and essentially Mark is documenting his own experiences with the fighters over the years. I love these two fighters. I can never read enough stories about both of these fighters in that era of heavyweights. Usually these guys, when they say faithful blood feud, that's not just some BS marketing tactic to draw in viewers. These two have such a history together. Like Muhammad Ali, he refused to fight in the Vietnam War, and he lost his license to box. Like, the man could not work. He was dead ass broke. Like for 3 years, he could not box. He could not work. Like friends would lend him money, including Joe Frazier. Like they would all give Ali money to support him. And finally, like I'll say this for like when I get to this video down the road, but essentially, while Ali was out, he couldn't fight anymore. Joe Frazier became the heavyweight champ, and that led to a big fight. It was the fight of the century, the biggest fight ever. Yet Ali never lost the title. Frazier's the current title holder. They were fighting at Madison Square Garden. 1971, the fight of the century, the biggest fight ever. Two undefeated heavyweight champions. In case you're wondering, Joe Frazier beat the shit out of Ali that night. If I find a couple of clips from that fight, including this epic knockdown, I'll put it up in the description box below for you. Like I said, I don't want to say too much, but make a long story short, the reason why they had such a blood feud together is over the years, Ali, he was known for his mouth and whatnot. You insult your opponent. You got to do what you got to do to promote the fight and whatnot. But I'll say this about Ali: he really overstepped his bounds and really went over the line sometimes with like his treatment of Joe Frazier. Like it was just like unnecessary, and like Frazier understandably could take it personal. So like when they say these two had a blood feud, it was for real. Things got really heated, and they call it the Manila because these two had 3 fights together. The third fight was held in Manila, the Philippines. One of the greatest and most brutal fights you'll ever see. Yeah, Lord. These two great champions, like they made each other. Like you can't discuss one without the other. Just a great period in time, fantastic history. I cannot wait to share this with you all. Like I said, that writer was famous writer Mark Cram. Well, guess what? Now we have a book by Mark Cram Jr. As he followed in his father's footsteps, he wrote this book, which I found at a bargain outlet store. I snatched it up the moment I saw it. It's a biography of Smokin' Joe Frazier, the life of Joe Frazier, one of the greats. He fought out of Philadelphia. I guess you could say I'm a little biased because I live so close to Philadelphia. I love that city. Smokin' Joe, what a hell of a story. The guy came from the hunger capital of America in South Carolina. Like, had the highest infant mortality rate. He rose up, became an Olympic gold medalist, and one of the greatest heavyweight fighters ever. Hell of a story. You remember my grandfather once, he saw Joe Frazier train in either Vermont or New Hampshire, one of the 2 states. He saw Frazier training up there. He said Frazier had like the biggest legs, the biggest thighs he ever saw in his life. That was Frazier's power. Like if he hit through that left hook, you'd knock your head off with that thing. Like all his power came from his lower body. Man, good Lord, what a fighter. Oh, quick story. I gotta share about myself. For a few years I lived in Philadelphia. So Joe Frazier had a gym there, and he lived in an apartment above the gym. So driving past, it's a boxing gym. I have no business going in there. I've driven past the gym so many times, you can never miss it. It was the only building on the street that didn't have any graffiti on it. There you go. That's respect for the champion there. Next up, got some more baseball here. It's called The Luckiest Man, The Life and Death of Lou Gehrig by Jonathan Eeg. Here we go. Lou Gehrig, one of the all-time great baseball players. As you can tell, he played his career for the Yankees. There's also a lot of personal connections. I guess I got into it when I discuss the book down the road. He just comes up a couple times with my family history. It's a little personal connection between that and my relatives who are now deceased. So that's a personal note. It's like Lou Gehrig. A funny story with him. How he got the job playing first base for the Yankees. Like he was on the bench. The guy ahead of him who had the job as first baseman, he took a day off because he had a headache. Lou Gehrig filled in. He never missed a game for his entire career. So yeah, play through the pain, people. because you never know who's going to come up behind you. As a matter of fact, the only reason Lou Gehrig even stopped playing was because he was diagnosed with ALS in his mid-30s. If you ever heard, in layman's terms, I guess you can say, people refer to ALS sometimes as Lou Gehrig's disease. Well, now you know. This is the man himself, Lou Gehrig. Hell of a career, hell of a ball player, hell of a life. So I'm looking forward to reading this. Okay, 2 more, folks, then we're done here. This one I read around, God, it's like 20 years ago when this book came out. I loved it. I found it again in a used bookstore not too long ago. Could not believe it. It's called Tunney, Boxing's Brainiest Champ and His Upset of the Great Jack Dempsey. This book here is a history lover's dream. Fantastic. This guy, Jack Kavanaugh, wrote a hell of a book. We learned so much in this book. Obviously, Gene Tunney, and as you guess by the title, his upset of the great Jack Dempsey, who was one of the all-time great heavyweights. Gene Tunney beat him in a fight. And more than just that, you get the life of those two. You get some crazy facts. Like, you learn about the history of, let's say, Madison Square Garden in New York. Like the original one, like it was funded by the building was funded by the Vanderbilts. Like it wasn't long before Gene Tunney's time that boxing was illegal, and rightfully so. It's like that, and horse racing was incredibly corrupt. So rightfully so, it was banned for like a couple of years, but then it came back. And it was funny, those stories, like when they used to have the fights like out on the ocean, like they would have the fights on ships in international waters. And the other, horse racing, they would go down to Mexico. That's how a lot of like boom towns started up down there. But yeah, history lover's dream. Man, this guy, even like Jack Kavanaugh, going back from memory, he met Gene Tunney on a train. Like Tunney was off to like Harvard or somewhere. He was to give a lecture on Shakespeare. Hence the title, Boxing's Brainiest Champ. There we go. Hell of a read. Cannot wait to revisit this one. And lastly, folks, this is a book that I reviewed early on in my BookTube BookTube hobby. This is a hockey memoir. It's called The Game by Ken Dryden. Now, you see, this is a 30th anniversary edition. I won't go into too much here, but this book has such an important place in the history of all memoirs. Because first of all, Dryden wrote this book by himself. And he wrote it like 2 years after he retired, in this like early 1980s. Nobody did that. If there was a memoir about you, it wasn't right after you retired. It was later on in your life. But like everything about Dryden was unusual. Like goaltenders were usually short. He was 6'4". And at this time, college sports were not a thing. Maybe football, but that's about it. And basketball too. But like college hockey was not a thing. Like no professional hockey players came out of college. And he played at Cornell. And hear this about the guy. Imagine, like, he comes into the league right off the bat. He's like one of the greats in the game. Played a couple of years. He takes a year off because he had to go finish law school. Wrap your head around that, folks. Amazing guy. He served in Canadian Parliament. He's a lawyer. He's a professor at I don't know if he still is, but I know for a long time he was a professor at McGill University in Montreal. There you go. Very unusual man. I said, fantastic. That'll wrap it up, folks. Cheers again to you. I'm going to go text my cousin and gloat over how good that Superman movie was. He was a kid. I was never into that superhero movies that much. I love Superman, and it's the history lover in me. That character's been around since 1939. So when something comes out about Superman, I want to see what's going on with him in the world today. So yeah. Let's wrap that up, folks. Enjoy your Friday evenings. Take care, and I will see you down the road in the summer.